One rivalry I feel flies under the radar is the one played between Nebraska and Iowa. When the Cornhuskers joined the Big Ten, the conference tried to create rivalries for them. The Wisconsin rivalry felt forced, the Minnesota rivalry grew into a cult classic through the $5 Bits of Broken Chair trophy, but Iowa was supposed to be Nebraska's main rivalry in the conference, due to their location to each other and the fact that Big Ten made it the Thanksgiving weekend matchup and the season finale. Things were awkward at first because rivalries are organic, but over the last 13 matchups, the rivalry has grown into something special. This is the story of the Heroes game, but before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know what you think is the most underrated rivalry in college football in the comment section below. The Iowa-Nebraska rivalry is actually older than you might think, as it predates the Cornhuskers joining the Big Ten, and even predates the Big Ten itself. The two met on November 26, 1891 in Omaha. This game was special because it marked the first time Iowa traveled outside their home state to play an opponent. Iowa would dominate the first matchup, winning 22-0 on Thanksgiving Day. Nebraska did not have a head coach at the time, so Theron Lyman, a player coach at Iowa College, assisted Nebraska to try and make the game more competitive. The following year, the two schools would be charter members for the Western Interstate University of Football Association, a conference that featured Missouri and Kansas along with Nebraska and Iowa. The second matchup of the series would end in a tie, but Nebraska would not just get their first win in the series in 1893, would actually go on a 3-game win streak before the two tied in 1896. Iowa would get their second win of the series 2 days later, when the two played again, winning 6-0. The first 7 matchups would take place in Omaha, before crossing the river and playing in Council Bluffs, Iowa in 1897. The same year, the WIUFA dissolved as a conference. In 1903, the game would be played in Iowa City, and in 1904, they played in Lincoln for the first time. Since then, the game has only been played in those two cities, and the schools would play consistently until 1946. From 1931 to 1941, Nebraska would go on an 8-game win streak, which is the longest win streak in the series. But then, following World War II, the rivalry would just stop. Although there was a train from Iowa City to Lincoln to make travel easier for fans, as college football expanded, the two just slowly drifted apart. Iowa would win 4 of the last 5 matchups, and the series was 21-11-3 in Nebraska's favor in their 35 matchups between 1891 and 1946. The two would not play each other again until 1979. That 1979 game would be an extremely fun game unless you were an Iowa fan, as the Cornhuskers came back from a 2-touchdown deficit to win 24-21 to avoid being upset as the number 7 team in the nation. Nebraska would destroy Iowa the following year in the largest deficit in series history, when the number 5 Cornhuskers beat the Hawkeyes 57-0. The following year, though, Iowa would earn sweet revenge as they would upset the 7th-ranked Cornhuskers 10-7. After the game, Hayden Fry would say, "This is the biggest win since I've been here." That would also be Kirk Ferentz's first game as an assistant for the Hawkeyes under Fry. In 1982, Nebraska would win 42-7 to get revenge, then the rivalry would go on a hiatus again. The two would meet again in 1999 and 2000, where Nebraska would win both matchups by a combined score of 84-20, as the number 5 team in 1999 and the number 1 team in the nation in 2000. The 1999 game took place during Ferentz's first season as head coach. The two would not meet on the football field again until Nebraska joined the Big Ten Conference in 2011. 15 years ago, this game was not viewed as a rivalry game really. While the two fan bases did not care for each other, it still did not feel like a rivalry. It was kind of that one friend your mom forced you to hang out with when you were a kid, even though you two did not care about each other. At the time, Iowa had rivalry games with Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa State that they cared more about, and Nebraska fans did not feel like Iowa was good enough to be considered one of their conference rivals. This was a program that faced Oklahoma as its main rival until the Big 8 and Southwest Conference merger, and then played Colorado on Black Friday until they departed from the Big 12. The Big 10 viewed it as a possible rivalry due to their proximity, due to the schools recruiting in the same area, as well as their alumni bases being located in mutual places like Omaha. Both had tradition, history, and iconic venues. Former Nebraska player Matt Davidson explained, "That's what creates the rivalries. It's being forced a little bit to some degree. Some of the certain pieces of the fan base want there to be that spat between the two programs. Then I think there's a lot of fans that are like, oh, that's Iowa. And Iowa fans go, oh, that's Nebraska. I don't want to get caught up in that. I think if you have a couple of close games, a game that will decide the West, a big upset one year, then history creates these rivalries. To me, it's being forced a little bit right now. Nebraska won a few games, Iowa won a few games, programs are in different spots. We've gone through a lot of coaching changes. It's almost hard because there's not the coaching battles. Nebraska would win the first two matchups in the series in 2011 and 2012, 20-7 and 13-7 respectively, and played in the Big Ten title game. Since then, Iowa has dominated the series. Things began to shift in 2014 when Nebraska beat the Hawkeyes 37-34 in overtime. In 2015, the Cornhuskers almost spoiled Iowa's 12-0 regular season, but fell to the third-ranked Hawkeyes 28-20. Iowa would win the next two matchups by a combined score of 96-24. The Athletics' Scott Docherman wrote in 2018, "This month, an Iowa fan sent 70 cookies to a company corporate office in Nebraska with 56 frosted in gold and 14 pasted in red. The gesture commemorates the 5,614 hours since the Hawkeyes' 56-14 win in Lincoln." On Twitter, Iowa fans regularly point out the 96-24 combined score in the wins over the past two seasons. Nebraska fans flaunt the school's 5 national titles, including 3 in the 1990s. Hawkeye fans retort that it's no longer the 1990s, while Husker fans respond that at least they had the 1990s. Former Nebraska head coach and quarterback Scott Frost said in 2018, "The Iowa game needs to be a bigger rivalry. Again, rivalries are for the fans. We're going to approach every game the same. If Nebraska is the type of program it should be, that's going to be a big game. We've got to hold up our part. I've got a lot of respect for Coach Kirk Ferentz and what he's done, but we're gunning for them." Iowa and Nebraska continued the Cornhusker tradition of finishing the season on Black Friday. It started as a 2-game series, but would be extended permanently by the Big Ten. That was until September of 2017. Then Nebraska Athletic Director Sean Eichhorst requested to move the game to Saturday. Iowa athletic officials refused to budge, so Big Ten officials shifted the 2020 and 2021 season finales to Iowa, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, Minnesota. The move stunned Nebraska fans, in part because the Iowa series had gained traction, but also because Eichhorst vacated Black Friday. Shortly thereafter, Eichhorst was fired. Bill Moose replaced Eichhorst and read the room and wanted to continue the Black Friday tradition, explaining, "I went right to work on that as soon as I got to Nebraska. Yes, I did want to zero in on Iowa. Iowa AD Gary Barta and I had conversations about it, and he felt very much like I did. All of a sudden, the two fan bases came together as a rivalry, and the disdain for each other grew even more because the fans wanted to keep the matchup as a Black Friday matchup." Eichhorst gave another spark to the game in 2014, as Docherman wrote in 2024, "Eichhorst, who was a nondescript administrator until the decision to fire Bo Pelini, stepped in front of the cameras and unwittingly launched the pseudo-rivalry between Nebraska and Iowa into a blood feud. When asked whether the Huskers' comeback gave him pause in his decision to fire Pelini, Eichhorst replied, 'Our kids showed great character and resilience in a tough environment.' So it did play a factor, but in the final analysis, I had to evaluate where Iowa was. It was a moment that the two passionate fan bases discovered how much dislike they had for one another. A decade later, their mutual disdain grows every time Iowa fans gloat after another win. Iowa would put together an 89-38 record over the next decade, while Nebraska would put together a 49-69 record. From 2015 to 2024, Iowa won 3 Big Ten West titles, won double-digit games 4 times, and was bowl eligible for 10 straight years, and went 9-1 against a team they were viewed way beneath. Nebraska during that period had only one winning campaign in 2016, and went to 2 bowl games, earning a bowl bid with a 5-7 record in 2015. They earned a 3rd bowl bid last year, but lost to Iowa again. 8 of the last 10 games were one-score games. In the last 7 matchups, 4 different Iowa kickers have drilled game-winning field goals with either no time remaining in 2018, 2023, and 2024, or 1 second left in 2019. 2 took place in Lincoln and 2 were in Iowa City. They were heartbreaking losses that were a result of late turnovers by the Cornhuskers with under a minute remaining. Nebraska's only win came in 2022 when they beat Iowa 24-17 in Iowa City. They have not won the game in Lincoln since 2011. Eichhorst turned the forced rivalry into a real rivalry and then tried to destroy it as a season finale, and ending the Black Friday tradition, only adding more fuel to the fire. Like wines and whiskeys, rivalries get even better with time and age, and this young rivalry continues to grow into something special. What do you think? What is the most underrated rivalry in college football? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Thanksgiving, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.